So I was, mm, I guess, observing, through Twitter and, on Tom, what's her name, the Attorney General of New York, race pimping on, that fucking junkie criminal George Floyd. Um, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, okay, right. Um, what was it? I guess it was 4 years ago this month that the American ruling class decided to um, organize a color revolution inside of America, and I guess was that during? Yeah, I guess that was during the Rona too. So basically, a distraction from their program, whatever the hell that was. Um, I still tend to think that coronavirus was a thing, and you're talking about margins of death, death rates, etc. What was it? I forget the exact percentage. More of morbidity, but it was pretty high relative to like the flu. So, but the American healthcare system was a mess. I mean, it's run. Like I've said before, America is basically merchants and criminals, and that's what the healthcare system is. Basically, it's an insurance racket, and they bribe the doctors like probably 8 times what they should be making, or maybe it's not eight, maybe it's 6 times or 4 times, but whatever. It's a lot more than they should be making. The doctors go along with that. The people get fucked, and there you are. They had a real situation on their hands. They couldn't really handle it too well. The country is very antisocial, and that was reflected too. I was staying in the family place at the Edgewater Beach Apartments, and that whole complex, as the old generation died out and the new generation of striver filth moved into that building and into the city of Chicago. Basically, what Medvedev, scumbag liberal himself, has pointed out that these scumbag liberals in the West, they're brainless and heartless, and that's what these people were. Someone related to me in the building with a bit more sense and a bit more heart, a story of going to a board meeting at that time. I guess it was 2020. Yeah, that someone in a wheelchair with a disability was asking about, the new library in the building. How do you have handicap accessibility? And this sociopath basically cackled and said, "Oh, you're not getting into the library. No one cares about you." Like that's that level of just nasty callousness. I had that experience with Uncle Tom Motis Elian. I mean, what a piece of shit he is. Working, I guess he's got clout. They gave him a job with HR. Now he's in Streets and Sand, probably a better place for him in the sanitation department, where it's a bit more on the low end. But what just that sort of nasty callousness. Anyway, so around that time, my experience of this kind of shit lib, nasty race baiting was, I'm doing laundry in the building, and I told the manager, could you send up your, for this or that or the other, kind of maintain the apartment until it's sold and I get the hell out. I'm like, could you send your illegal scabs up, please? This needs to be done, or that needs to be. Okay, I'm an asshole, but you hire illegal scabs because they're cheap, and they refuse to organize a union. I mean, even my father said, they asked the illegal scabs, 20, 30 years ago, hey, aren't you going to organize a union? And they're like, no. We just rather be scabs. We don't want to give our money to a union. we don't care about any rights. We're cocksuckers anyway, and we're just here to steal money and shit all over your land. So, the old people then, 30 years ago, were like, all right, whatever makes you happy, Mr. Illegal Scab. And then, so, they hired a whole bunch more, maintenance, and, they were basically illegal Mexicans. And, they're just there to steal money and shit all over everything. And, one guy, you could tell he was a criminal. He's just some sort of cartel, heavy. And then they had some hysterical academic wetback, like move into the building. And at the same time, they have their, Polish, whatever, illegal scabs working as maids for, whatever, asshole in the building. And these Polish maids are using 3 and 4, machines at a time. The limit is 3, or they're using 4, at least, and they're breaking them. They're using, they're loading them so heavy, they're using them so often, and yeah. So basically, they're violating building rules. They're breaking the machinery. Shitting all over my land, and. So, I'm like, oh, I say to people, did you use 4 machines? That's, don't do that. Use, 3 at most and load them normally. And, I already don't appreciate the illegal scabs because, I have to work for the city as a federal anti-corruption hire, and I've got all these, shit-lib, Nazi whore scum, Uncle Tom scum, Aunt Tom scum, wetback scum, talking shit, wiping their ass with the Bill of Rights, bringing in scabs to fuck the native black population, the working class black population, who get pushed out of any decent sort of job and thrown onto unemployment on behalf of, this Irish filth and the Anglo and German filth behind them that run the city, that want to steal everything. So anyway, this wetback hysterical academic comes into the laundry room, and I say, I've asked the Polak Ukrainian filth and all the other filth, have you used 4 machines? Don't do that. That 3 is the maximum. Load them normally. Act like a normal person who's from here. So this hysterical wetback piece of shit comes in, and I say, oh, did you use 4 machines? And she's like, oh, are you asking me because I'm brown? And I'm like, what? No, I'm asking you because some people are using 4 machines, and I asked everyone if they used more than 3 machines because the machines are now breaking. Okay, and furthermore, this is my land that you've come to take a shit. To race bait or, to break things, to violate social norms, to pull down, the society. If you don't like it here, go the fuck back to Mexico. Fuck you. Call me mierda. So, I don't go to Mexico and take a shit all over Mexico. They just deported 7,000 American wetbacks who came for the cheaper prices. And, they're like, oh, okay, we'll send you 15 million wetbacks, to destroy your society. And then when 7,000 of you, and they're not getting deported, but when 7,000 of you mopes come, we're going to deport you after whatever it is, a year or 5. That's deportations haven't really happened in America on scale, since before Reagan. Yeah, before Reagan. Reagan was, the great amnesty president for basically wetbacks who were destroying, the United Farm Workers craft. And, the UFW, as Tucker Carlson rightly pointed out, I didn't know this, but, Cesar Chavez said, yeah, we don't want wetbacks coming into California collaborating with this Armenian kulak filth. So we're going to go to the border with bats and razor wire and, hopefully guns. I hope they shot some of them. And we're going to go, beat their asses. But it wasn't enough. The Teamster Mafia, filth, and the Armenian filth, and the U.S. government filth, joined up to crush the what was it? United Farmer, UFW. Yeah, yeah. I actually volunteered with UFW for some weeks in New York when I came back. When I was living there in the early '90s too. So yeah, I mean, I don't have problems with normal Mexicans, Chicanos, Moranos, whatever. My mother's side apparently is part Morano themselves. But there are big problems when you come 2,000 miles too far north and you take a shit all over the Great Lakes, where my mother's family lived for at least 200 and maybe, who knows, 15, a few of them, 1, 3, 15,000 years. And, in the 200 years that the European family was there, most of them were anarcho-communists, sympathizers, let's call them, militant trade unionists, or at least they supported the trade union for real. And, if you're just a wetback scab come to, take a shit, I'm going to shoot you. As soon as a manure contraption collapses, your shit-lib friends who love you, are basically, nowhere to be found. That's when the normal people are going to come back and shoot you. That's the way it's got to be. So what else? Oh yeah, so this hysterical wetback, idiot whore, starts screaming, and I'm like, "Fuck off, bitch! Go back to Mexico." And then this Polak manager scumbag, he hates me because I'm like, "Oh, you're using illegal, scabs." He starts to try to race bait me, and I tell this CIA idiot in my family who has to talk to management. I'm like, tell them, you race bait me again, I'll fucking knock your teeth out. Okay, you want to accuse me of being racist and violent? Okay, Polak, I'll knock your fucking teeth out. All right. And after that, I just cleared my guns out of the apartment and myself, and I was like, okay, goodbye, Polak mafia filth. And actually when I left, this Polak mafia filth had some wetback pig in a squadron tail me out of town, and I waved to him. But my landsman in Houston, Texas, basically said, if they do that in Texas, we just get out with a gun and we just walk towards the cops and we say, okay, you got a fucking problem? You want a gunfight right now? Get the fuck away from me, pig. That's what 3/4 of the pigs in Chicago are dirty. They're on the take from the cartel. That's what one of the pigs told me, when I was living in Jeff Park. And, probably half of those pigs, they don't want to take the bribe, but if they don't, they'll get murdered, by the other half who are fucking real pigs. So, that's Chicago. Half the city has to be shot or deported. And it's like Odessa, in 1920 or Yalta, Yalta. What is it? 20% of Yalta was basically shot or drowned, and now it's more normal. What else then? I had made some notes at the end here. Maybe I'll stop it soon, but yeah. So basically, I have more to say, but maybe I'll just stop it there. Yeah. I think 14 minutes is enough.